Good morning. I'm here to explain a couple of things to you, primarily revolving around my beautiful 2017 4Runner. So for those of you who know me, this 4Runner, I call her Daenerys because I was on the Game of Thrones kick when I got this 4Runner. This is my biological child. Okay, I just want to say there's not a lot of people who could say this about their vehicle, but I can because I used to work for Toyota and I actually typed in the codes into the computer in order for this thing to get built. And then I waited for it to get built in Japan because that's where all 4Runners are built, shipped over, and then carted to New Hampshire where I lived at the time. It had 2 miles on it when I first bought this 4Runner. And I was actually kind of pissed. I'm like, who drove my 4Runner? But obviously, you know, there's going to be a little bit of mileage on it. So we are now at 247,000 miles. The year is 2025. And I have gone to all but 2 states with this truck. That would be Nebraska. I'm so sorry, Nebraska. I keep making circles around you. Actually, I lied. 3 states: Nebraska, North Dakota. I think I've been to North Dakota, but I think it might have just been a second, so I'm not going to count it. And then Alaska, which obviously Alaska's pretty far. So we've gone everywhere. And I got to rebuild the engine. I'm at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and I'm just now talking about the engine rebuild. Who knows? Maybe I'll edit. Maybe I'll refilm. Maybe this will stay. But we need to rebuild the engine. All my mechanic friends, tune in because this is where the real talk starts. So, starting at about a year ago, a little over a year ago, this truck was at 220-something thousand miles, and the check engine light came on. And so I'm thinking it's the spark plugs because, you know, I hadn't done them for 200-something thousand miles. And I'm like, okay, so I'll do the spark plug. So I do the spark plugs and the issue doesn't really go away. And the way that the issue is acting, I'm not going to get into the whole thing because I could just sit down with you and we could have a really good mechanical conversation. And I'm just going to say I feel real blessed that I actually know something about mechanics because I very easily could have or could potentially get hosed on this truck in terms of mechanical work. So with the way it was acting, I thought that it was fuel related. So at that point, I was looking coils, injectors, all of that different stuff. Finally, this past winter, so I'm dealing with this issue. It became progressive and it was also intermittent when it started. That was the thing that got me, is that this vehicle was having intermittent issues. And the primary symptom when everything started was if I would come to a stop, then the idle would drop super duper low, like 500 RPMs. And you could almost feel it going out of misfire. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like the harmonics were totally off. But if you shut off the engine, let it sit for a second, start it up and get straight back on the gas, then everything would start to act normal. Anyways, as I mentioned, that issue then progressed. This winter I went to New Hampshire and that's where my parents' house is, and I was able to have a nice full garage with all of the things. That's the tough thing about being a nomad, is I don't have a garage. I only have very basic tools, and working in the dirt is not always the best, but it's part of it, right? It's part of it. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So go to my parents' garage and we do a compression test. My stepdad is an old school mechanic. I grew up with him in the garage, pumping the brakes, helping him with random projects. He restores anything that's like 1960s and older. So right now in the garage, he has a 58 Bel Air and a 31 Ford Model A, or Model T. So we're talking about stuff that is like very, very mechanically based. So he comes out and he's like, Taylor, first thing you got to do is a compression test. That's what you got to do. And of course, like when I talk to Toyota, they don't do that. They don't do that. And we do a compression test. The number 2 cylinder is showing 65 PSI. don't know what the PSI should be on the cylinders for a 4Runner, but I do know that a lawnmower has more than 65 PSI. That's a 6-cylinder truck. No bueno. So we go and test the compression, and it's really easy, by the way. All you have to do is like take off the spark plug, and then you screw in the compression tester and then turn the engine. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's like such a snap. So we test all the rest of the cylinders, and they were like at 140 something, you know, they were all pretty consistent. I'm like, okay, so clearly number 2 cylinder's a problem. So I bring it to Toyota, and I did all of this work to try and narrow down exactly what was happening. 1, because I wanted to fix it on my own, but 2, the labor rate is $180 an hour. That means to diag this truck, if it took 2 hours, then I would have already been in the hole $500. That's like wild. So I bring it to Toyota. I tell them, run a bore camera down my number 2 cylinder. Tell me what's going on. And they found that the valves are burnt, and I probably have a bent guide rod. So they quoted me on a valve job. For one valve replacement, there's 6. It's a 6-cylinder engine. So for one valve, they quoted a price of $9,000 with no other options. That makes me mad, because if I were a woman who didn't know anything and I was sitting at the Toyota dealership and I said, yeah, just please fix my truck, I'll pay whatever, then I could have paid $9,000 to have one valve replaced and have 5 valves that are like ticking time bombs, and you don't do that. And the law of mechanics, things must be symmetrical, okay? This engine has been together for 200-something thousand miles. You don't just rip apart the head and not do other things. So the logical thing to do, which was not recommended by the Toyota dealer, is to either rebuild the whole top end or do an engine swap. So up until recently, I have been planning on an engine swap. And primarily that's because no one works on the internals of these trucks. I haven't been able to find anyone to rebuild the head. Getting rid of the truck is not an option, okay? I mean, this is like my child. And again, I've grown up with this mentality of holding on to vehicles. Like, we have a car, the garage, that's almost 100 years old. Okay, I've owned this for 8 years. This is the first new vehicle I've ever had. That's the first vehicle that like I ever had a loan on. Like, what? I'm not getting rid of that. So the plan has been to do an engine swap. The person who helped me build out this 4Runner is located in Arizona. Any sort of job like that, I want to go to someone I really trust. So I've been planning on doing the engine swap in Arizona. But as I started researching engines, which are priced between like, let's say $3,500 to $4,000, I started getting some anxiety, because I'm looking at these engines. They've got 100,000, maybe a little under. I mean, ideally, if I get a used engine, I want something that was like totaled in an accident and it's got like 50,000 miles on it. Like, I want a baby. But those engines really aren't out there. I'm sure they are if you look and you dig. But then I started getting anxiety of like, well, who is this engine? If I buy this engine with 80,000 miles on it, like, I understand it's a young Toyota engine and that has a lot of good stuff, but what has it gone through? Like, what environment did it live in? How do they drive it, right? So all these kind of questions start to happen. And then I got a referral from a friend, and he gave me 2 numbers. He said, these are 2 shops that I know of here in Kentucky that have rebuilt engines, and neither of them are doing it anymore because no one does it anymore. I called both those shops. I called many shops. No one does this job. It's just the mantra, and this was the mantra when I worked at the dealership. It's replace, not repair. And if you want to go down a YouTube rabbit hole, look up the right to repair movement, especially when it comes to agriculture and farming. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole right now, but let's just say it's a bunch of bullshit that people can't fix their own things. Okay, it's not right. I really don't think it's right. But one of those shops did give me a referral to another shop. I called them and they said, yeah, we do that. We've done 3 Toyotas this year. They did like a Highlander and like, I don't know, whatever the other 2 Toyotas were. I'm like, okay, so you can do this. So we have the conversation. I get really good vibes off of them. They like using Toyota parts. Their labor rate is very reasonable. I don't even give a shit about the labor rate at this point. I'm like, let's just rebuild my truck. I do care. I do care about that. So I got to call them later today and see if I could get on the schedule. Well, we've been talking about getting on the schedule, but I mean getting in, because I guess that they've had other things going on in the shop. We've got to make sure that the machine shop is not out. So it's just been juggling a lot of pieces, and kind of to backpedal a little bit. I had originally, with the engine swap, a big motivator with the engine swap was having the ability to work on the original engine myself, rebuild it myself, because I really would like to do this myself, and then have that engine in here in the interim, obviously, so that my truck is running. But without doing the engine swap, one, it's half the price. That's a big deal. And two, I really do like having the original engine remaining in my truck. And then 50 years from now, I could say all my numbers match. But it's not off the table to maybe get a different engine in the future and soup that up, because I would totally love to stroke and chip and do all the things. That would be fun. But the first thing is just to get an engine that's running reliably without misfiring. So that's my story. It's 12 minutes. Maybe I'll edit it down. Maybe I won't. But that is what's going on in a nutshell. So we've got to rebuild the top end of the 4Runner soon. and yeah, I mean, I can't complain. This truck has been a queen. 220 something, 30 something thousand miles is when the symptom arised. I have been so hard to this truck. So hard. I'm talking about, I mean, burnt valves could be anything. That could be random crap gas from anywhere across the country. I mean, I've been towing over capacity with this truck for years. Not right now. This trailer's in spec, which is kind of cool. I mean, I've gone off-roading. I've done, you know, that the special conditions in the owner's manual. I've lived within those special condition criteria, like for the entire life of this truck. So I've been very, very rough on this truck with very minimal maintenance, and I can't complain. I really can't complain. But we're here now, and that's my story. Okay, bye.